Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Kyl Reber, and welcome to the COVID Conversations. I am back in the patio area of my house, but yes, it's still got the sanding happening. It's a long process, but it's gonna work its way through. This series is still going because if in case you're living under a rock, COVID is still happening. So I think we still need to have conversations, and I'm looking forward to this one because I've known this person probably longer than she wants to admit it. And we have seen a bit and been through a bit, and I do admire her wholeheartedly, but I will get to that later. Kaylene Hobson, how the hell are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. She won't admit it, but I think she is a little bit nervous, and she's just chomped down lunch. So if she gets a slight bout of indigestion halfway through, everything will be okay.
Yep.
Now we're going to kick right in, I think, to the guest intro. I will say that Kaylene and I am older than Kaylene, but only just. We shared some very interesting years, only just. We shared some very interesting years in our high school together. So we've known each other, we've just worked it out, 30 odd years it would be this year, which is a long time. And I'm very grateful to still have people like Kaylene that I can keep in touch with and not be too embarrassed talking about those years because she experienced some of those years too. And we've already made agreements. There are certain parties and instances that we are not talking about, especially in the year 1992 when we were 17 years old. But let's get to the barbecue intro. Kaylene, hello. I have a glass of water because it's 1:30 in the afternoon, although I have beer for the week ready to go.
What up?
Here you go. My name's Kyl. It's good to meet you. Tell me about yourself. What do you do?
You know, when you sent me the questions, the first thing I thought was my reaction if I was at a barbecue and someone said, "Hi, how are you?" is crap. Am I at the wrong place?
Forever the introvert.
My dogs are pushing my door open.
Okay. Yeah. Thought you were taking us on a tour.
And the dogs come in to see what I'm doing. I do lots of different things because I keep trying new things and none of them work, but eventually something will stick. At the moment, my main job is homeschooling my two boys, Isaac and Josh, who are 10 and 14. They're both autistic, and we have had many attempts at the school system, and some have succeeded for short periods of time and some haven't. So at the moment, they are both home full-time, which means so am I.
How long have you been homeschooling them for?
On and off for 8 or 9 years. Isaac did homeschool grades 1 through to 3 and then went back and made it through most of his first year of high school, but is home this year in grade 8. And Josh made it to grade 1, and it was a mutual understanding that school was not the best environment for him.
we all came to the decision.
Yes, yeah. Him first, and then he managed to convince everybody else.
And you are married to John, and we've just said for 23 years.
Yes.
Which I am admirable of. I'm coming up to 20 next year, and how that's happened, I'm still not sure. But I guess, look, the first thing that pops into my head, and we'll get to this in the COVID stuff later on. You homeschool. You've been doing it for some time. What's it like?
Well,
really,
I've had a nice little taste of it lately, which I've greatly enjoyed.
Because that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like we were doing homeschooling with my kids, and they're they're not Einstein, but they're smart and everything. And just Ivy's 10 in a couple of weeks, and she's giving me grade 4 maths, and I'm just going, what? This doesn't make any sense to me. Lila's 13. I'm going, you're on your own, champ. Google it. You know, but it's not just that. The environment, like, you know, I living around them that long. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's not a 9 to 3 thing. But what is it like to you, and how does it affect, I guess, the family different to, dare I say it, a normal family? Because
Um, well, to start with, there's a big difference between doing school at home, which is what everyone else has done with COVID, which is
mm,
schoolwork at home, and what you end up doing with homeschooling. Some
yeah,
people will do distance ed and it's 9 to 3 and they log in and they have teachers. We tend to learn what they feel like learning. And at the moment, Isaac's currently designing an irrigation system, which means he has to measure out the backyard. He's got to work out how long all the pipes have got to be. He's got to work out how many connectors he needs. He needs to work out all of um, the prices for everything, come up with a budget for it, and then put it all together.
yeah.
Because when we do sit there and do algebra, he says, when am I going to need this? And I'm like, right in this moment. And he says, apart from this, when you're like me and you have kids and you're right in this moment.
And is there times where you just like you, God? And as I said, we won't talk too much about our high school years. But do you go like, I don't know, mate, when will you need that? Like, is it hard not to agree sometimes?
Oh, definitely. Because we've tried the school system and it's gone so badly, I probably have a lot less respect for it than would be expected. So I'm all for doing it our own way because
Yeah.
we've tried it the system way and it didn't work.
Did you find you had to educate yourself again a little bit?
Yeah, with a lot of things. Like Isaac is teaching himself how to do computer animation and graphics and 3D rendering and stuff. He's decided most people start learning it when they're about 18. So if he starts at 13, he'll be ahead of the game by the time he wants to do it professionally.
I like this kid. I like
And
this kid.
he starts talking to me about on the X and Y and Z axis. And I'm like, I thought there was only two. Where's the third?
There's three.
And the different perspectives and how to do it all and he doesn't even realize he's doing maths. He's doing something he likes doing.
Yeah,
But my focus is not on teaching them content, it's on teaching them how to learn.
yeah.
So we the other day watched the movie on Netflix, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind.
Hmm.
And it's about, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a boy in Malawi who builds a windmill and puts a water irrigation system in and saves his village from drought.
Right. Okay.
So there's so much that comes out of that because it's what how important an education is and what you can do with that and what science can do and what life is like in another country and where Malawi is and what the political climate and economic climate's like in Africa.
And that's the sort of thing that you, I guess, research back to it, trying to relate instead of, like you said, sitting down in a desk and doing like, okay, we do this and we cover this subject, this subject, this subject. And that, again, I guess for like Isaac and Josh, it makes it more, what's the word? They see it more worthwhile and they're getting more out of it at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very long time ago that we would have done it, but Australian history, for example, is so dry and boring to learn about. But we went to Ballarat and went to the gold mines and went underground, and they can tell
Yep.
you a lot more about it than I can.
Yeah, yeah. Because you were saying when we had a chat about setting this up that you will often go out and do stuff and go out and see things and that. So, I mean, God, most kids would love that because it just seems to be like you almost do an excursion once a week as opposed to actually sitting in a classroom.
Yeah, and I mean, people always talk about kids not getting to socialize. COVID was just as hard on homeschoolers as it was like being isolated with everybody else because
Mm.
we couldn't go and play with our friends. And when we go, they don't get 40 minutes for lunch. They get 4.5 hours to do what they're doing together. And
With the so like Isaac and Josh are autistic. Um, the decision to homeschool them, like we were just talking about it just then, but did it get to a point where like it wasn't just an education point of view, there was other factors that involved that decision?
yeah, Isaac, when he was in prep, did 3 days a week at Autism Queensland in a special program and 2 days a week in mainstream prep. And there was a full-time teacher aide that used to help him out and take him out of the class when he needed to, and prep went really well. And then we moved back from Cairns to Brisbane, and I specifically flew down and searched all the schools to find one with a good special ed unit that would help us out. And we moved specifically to a house in the right catchment to get into the right school.
Yeah, right.
It just didn't work out. And we got not even halfway through the first term and had a horrible, horrible experience. And when John came home from work one day, I said, he's not going back. And he went, so what's the plan? I went, don't have one of those yet.
I know this much.
He's not going back. And we started off with distance education because I didn't know what I was doing. But after a while, I was modifying their program so much that they were then telling other families to do what I'd put together. And I'm like, why am I paying you? You should be paying me. So now I write my own.
Mm-hmm. Did the kids still get assessed?
Through the home education unit, you have to write a plan up for what you plan to do for the year. And then at the end of the year, you have to send in work samples and show how they've improved between one sample and the next.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not exams, there's not assignments, there's not anything like that unless I choose to set it for them.
There would be a lot of people, and again, we all have our own opinion, and obviously they're not living it like you are. There would be a lot of people out there that would, I guess, without putting any thought into it, disagree with your decision to homeschool your children. Without letting too many swear words go. What's your answer?
I have days where I disagree with my decision. And honestly, it doesn't come down to a decision. I did not wake up one day and go, this is the life I always wanted for myself. I pictured myself working, and we have tried the school system so much. When I pulled Isaac out, he had stopped speaking. He had walked out of class and he had wet himself and it was dripping down his legs. And I said, Zachy, you're wet. And he went, am I? And he was so disconnected, he didn't even notice. He was just standing there. And the school basically told me that he was intellectually impaired and I was being a pushy parent and I shouldn't expect too much from these kinds of kids. So there's no way in the world you can leave a child in that environment. When he was back at school, he got up to getting all straight A's and B's. I mean, apart from music and dance, he's not got a rhythmic bone in his body.
I feel for the kid.
And Josh, I had the teachers say thank you when I pulled Josh out of school. They said, I wish more families were in a position to do what you've done. There are just some kids we can't help, and we're so glad that he's got you.
Yeah, right.
But I feel guilty because I left Josh too long. I'd reached the point where I went, I've got 2 kids at school. This is my time now. I went back to uni. I was doing my master's in speech pathology, doing prac work, looking at a future that slightly resembled a normal one. And Josh wasn't coping. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I kept pushing through it. And I ended up with a kid who was suicidal at 8 and is still seeing a psychologist weekly with an eating disorder. So it wasn't a decision. It was life or death.
Yeah. And that's where I will say this probably more than a few times. I talk about you to my wife and I talk about you to other people, that just how much I admire you and how much I just go that you are that parent that goes, I will do this because if I don't, I may not have 2 children, or this is just what needs to be done because these are my children and I'm a mother. And like you said, it's affected your life, it's affected John's life, no doubt. But it's just, this is what we do, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, to me, there is no plan B. I mean,
what's the alternative? Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. We live over the back from the primary school, which is funny because I still see the school. I see the school kids walking. I hear the bells.
Every time you go past, or what?
Not to this school because they were lovely. Actually,
Yeah,
when we pulled Josh out, he actually still took his work back over and showed the principal and went to visits, and Isaac was still there for another year or so. So we've still got a good relationship with the school.
Yeah.
But he just couldn't be in a classroom with that many kids.
It's just too much going on.
Didn't cope with it. And after, I think, third time in a single week, they'd had to evacuate the classroom and he was screaming and hiding in a corner, and they had to keep calling me up because no one else could calm him down. It was just this working.
Because you were saying, like, before we went online, the concept of working. Like, how do you work 9 to 5 when you could at any time get a call and go, we need you here now?
You can't. I was studying and trying to do that. I skipped a lot of classes, but I was studying at the Gold Coast and they were doing school and before and after school care, just 1 or 2 mornings, like when you're doing uni and it's only 2 days a week, contact hours and things. And that still didn't work because I'd get a phone call saying, can you be here? And I'm like, well, I'm 40 minutes away. And I'd have to call John and he'd have to leave work and cancel client meetings and he'd have to go up and pick them up. And I got to after school care one day to pick Josh up and he was screaming and screaming and screaming. And they were dragging him through the building and locked him in an office. And it took us nearly a year for him to be able to be alone in a room and not panic.
And not have that. Yeah.
He had anxiety the whole time.
How can you see that noticeable change now in them, the contrast from homeschooling to where they were?
Oh, definitely. They push the limits like any kids and decide that,
For those of my friends who, if you are friends with Kaylene on Facebook, you will agree that if you want a little pick-me-up and if you just want to have a little bit of a laugh, you just scroll through Kaylene's wall on Facebook and it is just a fucking comedy. I mean, I feel for you. Some of the stuff you write, I go, oh my God. But at the same time, I'm laughing my ass off.
It's not made up.
It's unbelievable.
Like yesterday, I put on there, what was it about Isaac walking past with a chicken? I mean, a real chicken out of in a bowl, pretending to be the chef.
It was your chicken? He hasn't just found a chicken somewhere?
It's one of ours. We've got 6.
Oh, it's just amazing. I mean, as I said, I know I'll say it a few times, but I just admire you so much because I honestly, I don't know how I would go. Like we were talking about.
Some days suck. Some days really suck. Like you consider packing a suitcase and saying, that's it, I'm running away to the circus for a quiet holiday.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
I honestly, I hit a point. Josh might have been about 2. I think it was when I was in the middle of getting them both diagnosed because Isaac was diagnosed at 5 and Josh at 2. So I did them 1 year after the other in October for my birthday. Like 1 year, 1 kid, 1 year. So they were both really young. And I went grocery shopping with them when they were younger. I mean, now it's hell, but it was ridiculous at that point. And we watched Lady and the Tramp the day before, just to put it in context. And Josh has grabbed one of those reusable shopping bags, grabbed the lady next to us checkout's groceries into it, and then taken off at a run and started doing laps around the service desk. And Isaac's gone, it's all right, Mummy, I'll get him. And he starts running after him, screaming, get back here or Mummy's going to put you in a cage when you get home. watched Lady and the Tramp and the dog catcher cage and he's screaming at the top of his voice. And then I finally get my groceries. I get out to my car and I had a flat tire.
Oh.
And it was Cairns in the middle of summer. And I had to go back in and ask them to keep my groceries cold while I waited for RACQ.
Oh, no. And that would be one of those points where you go, this is officially fucked.
Well, John came home and I said, we have to move because I can't sit there anymore.
Cairns is not for us.
That was one of the, I can laugh about it or I can cry, but you can't hide from it.
Oh, God. That's just, yeah. I if Helen was sitting beside me now, she would be the first to say, you would have just seriously lost it. I don't know if I would have left the car park off that Coles with 2 children. I can't confirm it.
Oh, yeah. But
So,
they're not the hard times. The hard times are actually when they're suffering.
Yeah.
Like Josh has ARFID. It's avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. Basically means that half of my day at the moment is making him eat so he doesn't end up in hospital with a nasogastric tube.
Yeah, right.
And any silly things they do or say, if we're laughing, I'm happy.
Such a that is just such a good way to look at it, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, and again, it's I would say to people, you're probably, by that statement alone, you're probably the epitome of a glass half full person, aren't you? Yeah.
I think it's not just half full, it's like full of bubbles or something. It's like I have half a glass and one of those bath bombs in it.
But it's like you would look at it and go, I would chase you around the service desk of Coles every single day if it just meant that you would eat.
Oh, yeah. We go and have our NDIS meetings and you have to come up with your goals. And I'm like, eat, sleep. And they're like, and what about? And I'm like, no. Sleep.
You're not listening. All right. Tell me, so our next question on the COVIDs is, if you can invite any 3 people, in brackets, alive or dead, over to your house for a barbecue, you got to be specific. Who would they be and why?
See, I asked my boys to help me with this one.
Oh, God.
And first of all, they decided that alive people would be much better than dead people because having dead people over wouldn't be very much fun.
Well, that's Captain Obvious, really, isn't it?
And Isaac wants to invite Bob Ross.
Okay.
Do you know who Bob Ross is?
No.
Oh, 80s artist. He had his own TV show. You have to look it up. He's got a giant afro.
Right.
He taught oil painting, and he's Isaac's idol. And he's just weird. He acts like he's on something. I don't know if he is or he isn't, but he talks about in painting that there are no mistakes. There's just happy little accidents.
All right. I think you can see why Isaac maybe adores that guy so much, I guess.
Yes, but in true Isaac fashion, he didn't just want to take up painting. It has to be oil painting. And oil painting makes a big mess, and it doesn't wash off with water. And it makes a huge mess, and he's obsessed with doing it. Actually, hang on. I've got one of his paintings up there. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's unreal.
Painting.
That's unreal.
So he does landscapes, but yeah, if you look up a picture of Bob Ross, you'll go, oh, I've seen that guy.
All right, I'm onto it.
And then Josh wants to invite, we had to clarify whether fictional people counted. So he wants to invite the 11th Doctor Who.
God. Which one was that?
Matt Smith.
Okay, all right.
He's the funniest and he's our favourite.
Yeah.
And then we decided that once we were friends with Doctor Who, we didn't really need to use the 3rd because we could go anywhere and see anything we wanted.
This is why, when I was thinking of new guests to interview, I went, you. I can tell you right now, no, I could get another 100 fucking guests and they would not give me that sort of answer to this question ever again.
Because it's weird.
It's just, this is like, I guess getting back to it, is this just the way, do you get used to this is just the way your family sees the world?
It's the way me and my boys see the world. John just shakes his head and walks away and says, "What have I come home to?" I think. So, I can have conversations that don't involve words. So, he has a lot of Tourette sort of symptoms, but he makes chicken noises. Like we've been through a whole range of obsessive behaviors. The cartwheels were the worst. Like every time he got anxious, he had to try and cartwheel.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Like crossing streets and in shopping centres. And
oh my God,
not good. But at the moment, he'll brook like a chicken. So he calls himself chicken, and he'll talk about himself in the third person and say chicken this and chicken that. But he has taught himself the different chicken sounds, and he's taught me the different chicken sounds. So I now know what means yes and what means no and what means where's this, and I have to remind him human words sometimes.
and that behavior, is it just something that you, I mean, like you said, you've just got to roll with it, but do you just go, oh, okay, so we're doing that today? You know, the more you try and say stop or don't do that or whatever, it's just not going to work.
I pointed out, I focus on, with autism, my biggest focus with the boys is self-awareness, self-advocacy, and self-acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So they know they're weird, but they're good with that. Isaac had a teacher aide that said, "Oh, I'm here to help children with a disability like you." And he said, "I don't have a disability."
Yeah. Yeah. I'll never, and again, like you said, that self-acceptance, I'll never forget one of my old mates who you would know that we both went to high school with. His dad had a very strong English accent. And I joked with him and said, you know, give us your accent. He goes, I don't have an accent. You're the ones that have an accent. So it's just that we believe, like for him, Kaylene, it just makes me just so, I don't know, just a feeling to just say you've got these kids that even though, you know, and I hate using the word again, this normality, whatever that is, they just are so, you know, you've brought them to be just so comfortable in their own skin.
Oh, they joke about, this is their line, not mine, that that someone who was autistic was probably responsible for man making fire. Because you got to be able to think out of the box. And I'm like, yeah, if you're not meant to do it and you can set something on fire, that would be one of my kids.
That's just unreal. That is just unreal. Now, this one, I'm looking forward to this answer. What advice would you give to your 15-year-old self if you could sit them down one-on-one?
See, we also spent a lot of time working this one out too. And I've seen enough movies and Back to the Future and Endgame, and that we don't want to mess with the space-time continuum. So we worked out that we wouldn't want to change anything in the past. So I have to go back and just give myself this week's lotto numbers in a sealed envelope to be open in time to win.
So you are basically, you're doing the Biff Tannen, the sports almanac.
Yep. I want to change the future from this point forward. I don't want to change the past.
But like, I mean, I don't know, like we all had, God, if you want to call it an aspiration when you were that age, or, you know, how we were in high school together. Do you ever look back and go, this is definitely somewhere I did not imagine I was going to be?
Oh, every day. Every day. I had plans that I was going to change the world. Like, I went to Japan on exchange at the end of high school, and I wore a Greenpeace shirt that said "Stop the bloody whaling." I was very disappointed when I finally learnt Japanese and learnt that kujira or shinaide kudasai means please don't kill whales. Very polite. But that's what I wore on the plane to Japan, like on exchange. And I wanted to change the world. And instead, I feel like I don't have a role. Sometimes I think I'm comic relief for those who do. So, but it is what it is.
I guess, I was talking to someone only just this morning about the whole writing your own resume and how you think you haven't done a lot, and then you maybe put it all on paper and go, this is what I've done. You would probably, like, you were talking to me about a group of autism kids and parents that you work with and help along. But then there's not only that, but anyone could come to you as basically a sounding board. Like, your knowledge of autism and homeschooling and this and that, it's, again, you had to learn it. It was do or die. But now you have so much information and knowledge. Like you said, you're working with this group now. Do you feel now I can help other people?
I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
I have the advantage, I suppose, that I'm autistic and ADHD myself. Actually, Josh's psychiatrist said the H might be from the husband, but the ADD is all you. But if I learn about something, I could write a PhD in it. Yeah. So I didn't just homeschool. I went and did teacher development courses in how to teach dyslexic kids how to read. So Isaac went from not being able to read his own name at 10 to reading novels for adults by the time he was 12.
And you could have thrown your hands up in the air at any time and gone, fuck this, but you just went, no, I need to know what to do.
I need to know how to do it. I've always refused to work with any therapists with the kids that don't know more than I do and don't teach me, not just them.
Yeah.
So I'm really picky over if we do therapy, who it's with and what they know and how they do things. And like, even when I got the boys diagnosed, Josh was 2. And I had a part-time job working for Play Connect, which is it was a government-sponsored play group for parents with kids on the spectrum or suspected to be on the spectrum. And it was to give them somewhere to go to meet other families and get information as well and what to do. And I didn't just go to the group. Within a month I was working there. So
you're that parent.
I get bored. But I've learned about so many different areas that, yeah, that's why I was going to do my master's in speech pathology. I'm like, I've been attending speech therapy since Isaac was 3 and he's now 14. I might as well get a piece of paper that says I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. But I guess there are still days where you just go, can you guys just fucking leave me alone for a couple of hours?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What do you do? Like, what do you do then? Do you just go suck it up, or is there a plan?
When they were little, I used to meet John at the letterbox. Like, he'd get home from work and I'm like, here's your kid. The front door was just too far to wait. But yeah, I was going to the gym 5 or 6 days a week and doing classes. And when Josh got too bad that they couldn't take him in the creche at the gym, I'd then go after John's work hours, or I'd go for a walk or get out of the house. But we're in a sort of rhythm now, and it took a long time, particularly with Josh. I'd explain to him what alone time was, and he'd call it lonely time. Why would anyone want lonely time?
Yeah.
Like, because you're doing my damn head in.
You asked.
Like, when you're trying to unpack groceries and he's scaling the fridge with his feet because he needs batteries and they're kept above it, and Isaac's building a building block out of all the cardboard cartons you bought, and you do what you have to. I put the cold stuff in the fridge and then we sit down and we watch a movie until everybody's chilled out again.
Do people come around to your house that are maybe don't know the full story, or you'll be talking to someone and just you'll see them out and the kids will be with them. You're now at this point, obviously, where you're just, this is life. And their eyes are popping out of their head and they're going, what the fuck, are you going to do something about that? No, they're fine.
Honestly, these days, I don't know a lot of people who don't get it.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of friends have gone by the wayside, and the ones that have stayed have known me for so long that they're used to it. But yeah, I think that helps as well. I have a lot of friends that are in a worse situation than I am. I know lots of kids on the spectrum that don't speak. Mine boys took a long time to get their words, but now I wish they'd shut up sometimes.
Undo it all.
I actually, we have a mutual friend, Anne Stark, or Basili now, told me once she was on the tube in London and this kid's going, Mum, 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 Mum. And this woman just turned to her and said, can't believe I was happy the first time you said that.
It's true. It's true. It can be true. Now, the only other thing I was going to ask in this respect was, we were talking about study and that you are now doing some other study that you're hoping to, of course, tie back into helping those with, similar stories to yours. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I had to quit doing speech pathology because there's too many prac hours. You've got to do anatomy labs and all sorts of things. It was going to be too big a workload to try and do. And I didn't see how, even if I finished it, I'd get to work properly around schooling. So I'm doing my Cert 4 in personal training at the moment, because I can do the study 100% from home.
Yeah.
And then I can work for myself, and I want to work with kids, and particularly that age bracket that mine are in, because most kids on the autism spectrum have a lot of trouble with organised sports and activities, whether it's the social side of it or the physical side of it. They don't end up like, I've got friends whose kids race go-karts and who play tennis and do all sorts of things, but there's just as many or more who don't get those experiences, but still need to be fit and strong and healthy, and it helps so much. And I was taking Isaac to do personal training, and I still had to help explain how to teach him.
Yeah.
How to adjust a program, even though you've shown him 20 times before. He needs help with where to put his feet and remembering things. And it's too noisy in a gym because they're playing music that he doesn't like, because he doesn't like music that has words. You don't really know what working out is until you do it to the soundtrack to Lord of the Rings.
I don't know how motivating that would be. This is all good because I'm working with. This is all good because I'm going to do a bit of work with Kaylene and a few of her friends in a week or so after this recording. So I'm furiously taking notes at the moment. Don't play fucking radio.
Yeah. If you can minimize any of that's why homeschooling works for kids on the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can't learn. It's that they can't learn while they're bombarded by the world around them.
It's the environment.
It's too noisy, or it's too hot, or too much sensory going on. I used to, when Josh was little, because you get an anxiety response. Your body kicks into gear and says fight or flight over things that you really shouldn't be having a fight or flight response over.
Yeah.
Isaac's always been easier to manage because he goes for flight. He withdraws, he sort of steps back. Josh has been my fighter. So he would bite your ankles when he was 2, But we spent time sitting in the car and saying, now, how do you feel? And he'd feel calm. And then we'd open the door and he could hear the guy next door with the chainsaw. Now, how do you feel? Not calm. So is it really Isaac that's upsetting you, or is it the chainsaw? And we still have to work on it and recognizing what actually is a trigger and what isn't, and recognizing that other people might not have that trigger and they might not know it's a trigger.
What, I guess, looking forward, if that's even possible, like, what happens with Isaac? Because what's Isaac, 14?
Yep.
What happens when the concept of further study after high school? How do you just keep doing the online stuff? Like, what's the, I don't know if you call it a vision, but you know, what's the goal with the kids? How does this work?
His goal is that he wants to work in computer animation and rendering. And
Yeah.
so he's already set his path and how many hours a day he needs to practice to excel at it. And he is programs that I've never even heard of, but he builds 3D planes and things. And you can apparently sell them because people use people like that to do the background work in movies and stuff. You know, if you see a set and it's all done in CGI,
Okay.
that's what he wants to do, is to work that sort of stuff. So he's teaching himself a lot of that at the moment. I'm also looking into, right, what would he need in terms of a university degree if he wanted to do that, and making sure that he meets that. But I think at this stage, we wouldn't be looking at him doing a proper senior certificate. We'd look at other pathways into uni. A lot of homeschoolers will do like a TAFE level course as soon as they're allowed at 15 or 16 and take that alternative pathway into tertiary study.
Okay. The concept of the boys ever living independently is just something we don't want to talk about at the moment. Sorry, did I say that at the wrong time as you took a drink of water?
Trying to kill me.
Sorry. I got to ask.
It
intrigues me. It really does.
We live in a sort of in-between zone. I've got some friends who have kids that with 100% certainty their kids will never live independently.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I think Isaac particularly will need a higher level of support. Like we've talked about in the future, buying some units and we live in one and he lives next door.
Yeah.
Because he gets there. He just gets there slowly. Yeah. So he learnt to ride a bike when he was 10, not when he was 5. And he sort of learnt how to tie his shoelaces. And he, he didn't read at the age he was meant to, but he does now. But I mean, he's 14. He was getting an A at school for maths, but he still asks me, like I say, what's today? And we say it's August. And he's like, and what number month is that?
Yeah. Right.
And he cannot recite the days of a week in a row or the alphabet or anything with rote learning. But his high school maths teacher last year said his understanding of maths and science is at a university level. But the easiest way to look at Isaac is, this is funny. Anyway.
He's like, in a terrible way, it's all funny.
He's like a cross between Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory and Forrest Gump.
God, that is a contrast, isn't it?
If you mix those two together in a very weird sort of way, and he turned around when we talked about doing exercise, because I've set up a home gym. I train one of his friends.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I think I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to do all my exercise at once. Like I'm going to do lots of walking. And all I could picture was in Forrest Gump when he starts running. Isaac's never seen Forrest Gump, but he was proposing the exact same idea for no reason other than, I might just go from one town to another and walk. So we made him look up how long that would take, and he's rethinking the idea now.
He's reassessing his decision.
Yeah.
So I guess, God, this is the last question. And again, I'm going to love the answer to this. The current situation in the world right now, do you just go, is this what you're really worried about? Like, do you just go, what difference, this is actually a little bit normal compared to my daily life. Like it's no different to us.
In terms of day to day, it honestly doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But in terms of it being a pandemic, a lot of homeschoolers you come across, it's not just kids who are autistic, it's some that have serious health issues. So we know a lot of people that are immune compromised. So we take it very seriously. And the problem is when you've got a kid like Josh who suffers from quite severe anxiety over things, you don't want to make anything seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
So while everyone's wearing masks and things, I keep him out of the shops as much as possible. Plus, he touches everything, even though he's not meant to. He can't help himself. He's a sensory seeker and he likes to run his hands on things. And when he was little, we said we had a Vietnamese bakery down the road and they used to call him Look Not Lick. We said that was his Vietnamese name, was Look Not Lick.
Oh, it's just hit after hit.
But he built a bunker when COVID was first an issue. So
Josh did.
Yeah, he built a bunker out of cardboard boxes and all these crash mats we've got, and he filled the entire dining room with this series of tunnels and things, and he basically refused to come out of it for a good couple of weeks. He ate in there. He wanted to sleep in there. And it took a while.
Things like the news, things like papers.
We don't do the news. I haven't watched commercial television in, I don't know, 5-10 years. I just don't put it on. If I get my news online and look things up. And it's not that they're not aware of it. We just like to be able to discuss it and it's not sensationalize it.
Yeah.
Because Josh will see a little spot on his arm and think he's got skin cancer. Vax actually help. So helping them deal with COVID is we watched, what was the movie? Was it Outbreak or?
Oh yeah, it went to like number one on Netflix.
Yeah, but it's really science based. So they actually enjoyed learning about R0 figures and.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about, but yeah, it went from being no one had heard of it to was like the number one pick on Netflix as soon as.
Yeah, and they quite enjoyed watching that because it was scientifically based and they could look at the statistics on COVID and infection rates and transmission rates and understand it in relation to other things. And so they really understand the science of it better than a lot of adults. Last time we got flu vaccinations, the doctor came in and said, now, you can't get the flu from the vaccine. And they started giving him a lecture on T cells and how vaccines work. And he's like,
and was she the family doctor? Like, did she go, oh, here we go? Did she go, what the fuck is going on?
Both. They said, do you want to stay and talk to my next few patients?
I'm going to go on a break. Can you take over? So I went to talk about this earlier and stop myself because I want to talk about it here. Obviously, there is the whole, parents doing the whole homeschooling thing and, this is my study material and it's a bottle of wine and this is this and this is that and we're all crying about it.
Amateurs, start with the vodka.
You just go, bitch, please. Is this all you got?
No, because when there was an adjustment period with both of them, with homeschooling. Seasoned homeschoolers will call it deschooling. You've got to train out of one way of doing things and into another. Everybody has trouble with change.
Yeah.
So it's a huge change for kids. My boys thought it was hilarious that some people made their kids wear uniforms to sit online and learn. They're like, that's just mean.
One of Lila's mates goes to a different high school and they made her wear uniform and it's like, wow, But again, did people sort of suddenly take more of an interest in what you were doing? Like,
I had a lot of people ask me questions like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I think the only thing about it that really got to me was, oh, look, these people, due to a medical reason, can't go to school. So the government tried to provide them options and opportunities. And we don't get that. you know, we might be in a minority, but I still, for medical grounds, cannot send my kids to school, but no one's sending work home for me, and no one's providing all this support, and there's not an increase in my mental health plan, and you know, it's just, sorry, you're on your own. So
it's not like it's, yeah, and it's not like it's just you know, this will be for 12 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever. This is it for you. Like, how old did you say Josh is? 10, is that right?
Josh is 10.
So you've got this for at least the next 7 years.
Yeah. At 10, Isaac went back to school for a few years, but Josh is a very different kid, and we've now already skipped a grade, and he is doing high school science, and he remembers it better than Isaac does. And so I don't see him back in a standard classroom at any point in the future.
So the isolation of COVID and all that sort of thing, it hasn't really made any impact to your life as well, really.
We're fairly isolated already. That's why I post weird stuff on Facebook. Like, the internet is my lifeline to people, you know, because Josh is particularly hard to get out of the house. It's a mammoth effort to get him anywhere, and he can only handle certain groups of people. And the group you were talking about that I've set up is arranging activities for homeschoolers that are in the same situation, because we don't even fit in when we try to go to a normal homeschoolers activity. Because he can't handle that there's different kids each week, and they are playing a game that he doesn't know the rules to, and they're not playing the same thing as last time, and it's causing all these sorts of problems. So yeah, it's not, homeschoolers became just as isolated, because if you can't go to the park and you can't go places, then you're not seeing your friends.
How does he go, or how do the boys go with friends? Like, they still have a friend circle of sorts?
It's small, but yes. I mean, Isaac's funny. I talked to him about making new friends, and he's like, but why? I've got one.
What for?
didn't see, why would you need more than one? Like, I've got a friend, and that's my friend. And people on the spectrum, their friends are very much interest based. So if he's obsessed about Minecraft, his friends are obsessed about Minecraft. If they move on to something else, then he moves on to someone else. And I mean, they chat online and play computer games with some friends, and we have people over here, and I teach them Japanese calligraphy, and we go on excursions. But Josh is the hard one, because Isaac's happy in his own space. He is like, what is the point in me homeschooling if you're still making me meet people?
Kid's got a point.
What's the point? Like, you're making me socialize. This isn't fair.
I feel for the kid, because one thing I've taken out of COVID is I actually quite like sitting in my backyard and being alone. I don't mind it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm pretty good in my own company as well. But Josh has a really high level of social desire and a very low level of social skills. So, okay. I mean, Josh wasn't speaking intelligibly to other people until he was about 7. So he wasn't speaking at all until he was 3 or 4. And then, apart from me and Isaac, most people couldn't understand what he was saying. So we held him back at school, because it would be like sending him to a foreign country. You know, if he spoke, no one understood a word he said. But it meant when he started prep, he was already reading chapter books, and he could write things. So he was bored stupid. And he doesn't like children smaller than him. And I mean, when I say doesn't like, I mean really hates. So when he's all right now, but when he was younger, you had to like stand between him and a baby in the park. Right? He'd just like push him off things, and it's challenging. But he's pretty good one-on-one. But most of his friends are actually Isaac's friends. He fits better with that older group. You know, he's turning 10. He's turned 10, but 12 and up is sort of his interest group. And he he fits better there because they want to talk about Donald Trump and the state of the world and Brexit and all sorts of stuff. And the average 9, 10-year-old doesn't want to do that.
No, no. My 9 or 10-year-old is quite happy to watch the Norris Nuts on YouTube more often than not.
They
So
watch a thing called Kurzgesagt on YouTube, which is like some weird Russian scientist who makes these videos about all sorts of things and
right.
black holes and deep space and Hawking radiation. And I've learned a lot since homeschooling.
I was gonna say they would teach you as much as like you would. You know, people would talk to you. God, you're horribly educated. You go, no, that's my kids. My kids are thinking.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had to do anatomy at uni a couple of years ago when I started doing speech pathology.
Yeah.
But Isaac wants to learn anatomy just to help him better animate graphic art. So how things work and stuff. So yeah, we study anatomy together. But
yeah, I keep saying it, but it just fascinates me. Like, I mean, obviously, you go, well, just come over here and we'll go away for the weekend, and then you can see how much it fascinates you. But I mean, it's just.
I'm not that in writing.
I'll come back and I've got fucking oil paintings all over my face, and my hair looks like shit, and I'm just like, you know.
We have a regular babysitter. We've not been brave enough to leave her overnight yet, but she does a couple of hours on the weekends so we can go out for lunch or dinner or something.
Yeah.
And Josh actually interviewed his own babysitters.
Oh my God.
When we hired her, he sat down and he asked them all questions and he decided on who was best and he gave them on the spot feedback.
This is making me really nervous for next week. Oh my God.
Oh, if they don't like you, you'll know about it.
Oh, great. Can't wait.
I think I already told you about what he did to his last martial arts instructor.
Yes, you did. You did. You did. Oh, we will see how that goes. Look, I just want to say to finish up, I've always admired you. Even though we were talking about certain parts of our high school years that are still a little bit blank for whatever reason, you were always, and you still are, such a kind person.
Thank you.
And you can see it now, because if you weren't, I think you would have lost your shit many, many years ago.
This is the new me.
And I think it's just a testament to you. Like, I mean, you've had your own struggles going through this, and I'm sure, and it's maybe a talk for another time, but just to see those boys, and again, like I said, reading those Facebook posts, it makes you laugh, but you just go, there is only a certain sort of person that could actually wake up every day and do this, whether they wanted to or not. And that person is you, Kaylene. So you're a fucking rock star. There is no other way to put it.
See, I don't think that, because I know a whole bunch of women doing the exact same thing.
That's right. It's just not. Well, this is the thing. When
I've got a friend who, like, I'll send her a message and say, "You would not believe what Josh just did. This happened."
And try me.
Sent me a message back and said, "Fergus just peed on an alpaca." I'm like, "You win."
Okay, you win. I mean, and this is the thing. Like, I love my daughters more than life itself, and there are times that they drive me nuts, and then I stop and I go, I have nothing. I really have nothing. Like what you've, and again, the pride that you've taken in your children to go, look, I've got this. It's it's an honor to know you, Kaylene. I'm really glad that you've taken the time to speak to me.
That's
it's pretty cool. Fucking hilarious, but it's pretty cool. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, good.
And guys, if you like what you've heard, you can ask to be Kaylene's friend on Facebook, and then you can get what you heard. No.
Hilarious.
If she likes you, you never know. But what you can do is you can listen to more of the COVID conversations, which are on my YouTube channel. It's quite easy. It's Kyl Reber. No, it doesn't have an E. It's just KYL. Yes, I know that's spelt weird. Yes, that's been my whole life. kylreber.com.au used to be the website, but now there is a new website getting formed for a number of different reasons, which will be when it's live, the invictusprogram.com.au. And check the normal Facebook, Instagram stuff. Kaylene, thank you. I'm sure the storm will be arriving soon. Are they due? They're due back soon. You had to get them out of the house.
No, my husband's at home today. I'm off to get a CAT scan later, so he's at home.
Okay, awesome. Well, good luck with that. Thank you. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. So see you next week. Your boys, I'm actually more nervous now than I ever have been before. But there's only one way to find out, isn't there?
Kids.
They are, and they're as I said, they're a testament to you and John's tenacity to take care of your own. So thank you for your time.
Right.
We'll see you all soon. Goodbye.